Welcome to the Idea Climbing Podcast. Today, we're discussing brand strategies to have your clients at hello with my guest, Kevin Perlmutter. Kevin is the chief strategist and founder of Limbic Brand Evolution, a brand strategy and neuromarketing consultancy. And he's the creator of Limbic Sparks Brand Strategy, which taps into emotional insight to strengthen connections between brands and people. We cover topics such as problems and pitfalls with traditional brand strategy and how to avoid them, how to build and maintain a successful reputation, how to keep people's attention once you get it, and then stay top of mind, and more golden nuggets of advice. You're going to love this show. Welcome to the Idea Climbing Podcast. Kevin, thank you for making the time. I really appreciate this.
I'm so thrilled to be here.
And we're going to talk about emotional insight at the center of brand strategy, how you can have your clients at hello, and all sorts of things like that. Before we get into it, though, when it comes to the emotional insight of things and having someone at hello, what's your story? How did you discover that?
Well, I have been working in brand strategy for many years. When I started my career, I was in advertising, but quickly realized that I wanted to be in more of a strategy and customer experience part of the business. And I was at Interbrand. I learned about all sorts of different ways to bring brand strategy together. But it wasn't until I was at my next job working at a studio that creates sound and music for brands and entertainment companies that I got a real taste of emotional insight and neuroscience-based thinking. I created a research capability rooted in neuroscience, where I learned about the limbic part of our brain. I learned about how people make instinctive emotional decisions that guide how they act and how they feel and how they consume products and relate to brands. And it occurred to me in 2019, after being in the business for over 25 years, it occurred to me that, you know what? Traditional brand strategy is missing this whole thing about putting emotional insight at the center. It's what guides us as people. It's what guides how we think, how we behave. Yet it's kind of off to the side in most brand strategy work. So I wanted to create an approach to brand strategy that puts it at the center where it belongs.
I love what you said about people making emotional decisions. So many people think it's analytical, and if I have 20 PowerPoint slides, I'll close the deal. Could you speak a little bit more about how and why people make decisions based on emotion?
Yeah, well, there's a behavioral science truism, which is we buy on emotion and justify with logic. Our brains are operating all the time at the subconscious level. Things are coming past us. We're interacting with things, stimulus that we're not even aware of. And our brains are deciding, do I want to let this guy know to like think about this consciously, or were you just going to let this go and move on? So we are emotional beings at heart, and our brains are trained to guide us based on those emotional instincts. So if you're interacting with a brand and it has a visceral negative impact on you, that's going to be encoded in your memory longer than something that is kind of just generic. So we're either highly attuned to something positive, highly attuned to something negative, and a lot of what goes past us is kind of, we're indifferent to it. It is what it is. So when you stand out as a brand with a highly positive emotional experience, it'll be encoded in our memory. We'll think about it more. We'll remember it more. We'll want to have that experience again. We gravitate toward things that make us feel good. If the opposite is happening, then we gravitate away from things that make us feel bad, and we're going to instinctively want to avoid that situation. I call this instinctive positive response limbic sparks. And I created Limbic Sparks Brand Strategy as a way to not only put this emotional insight, this emotional intelligence at the center of how brands present themselves, but so that when they do present themselves, they're creating what I call limbic sparks, those moments when a brand has you at hello and you want to keep coming back for more.
So how do you tap into emotions as far as a first point of contact or a first conversation? What do you do to tap into someone's emotions the right way and not turn them off?
Well, the first thing I do when developing brand strategy is recognize that it's not just about the brand. So much traditional brand strategy is rooted in the brand, what brands want to tell people. In advertising, they talk about proof points and reasons to believe, and it's all persuasion based. And it's often devoid of really deep understanding of who the customer is. There's another phenomenon that's going on a lot right now, which is brands wanting to focus on their why. And that might be a really good leadership principle, but as a brand strategy approach, it's half baked. Focusing on your why without understanding your who is a half baked brand strategy. It would be like going into a bar, trying to meet people and telling them what you're about, what you're excited about, what you're doing, what you're striving for, why they should like you, and not giving them the time of day, not asking them anything about themselves, not having a conversation that allows you to be relevant to what it is they care about. So the way I do this work is I don't just focus on what my clients want people to know. I focus on understanding their customers and understanding what their customers care about, understanding the emotional drivers of their decisions in their life with or without this brand. What is it they're striving to achieve? What are they looking for to make them more successful and happy? What challenges are they looking to overcome? And how do they want to feel? And then we take that information and we combine it. We look to find the shared emotional motivation. What is the brand looking to do for the world? What are people looking to do and achieve and feel in the world? That shared emotional motivation becomes one bookend of a Limbic Sparks brand strategy. It's not a part of traditional brand strategy to have a shared emotional motivation, but when you have it, you could then create a brand idea and compelling messaging that has people at hello because it's relevant to what they care about. So a traditional brand idea or tagline is what the brand wants people to know about themselves. A Limbic Sparks qualifying brand idea has to be a compelling benefit and invitation. So let me give you a quick example just to bring that point home. I worked with a client, the AT&T Performing Arts Center. They had a brand idea that was AT&T Performing Arts Center. Why am I blanking on it? Staging the Amazing. AT&T Performing Arts Center, staging the amazing. That was their why. It was an about us statement. And most people, a lot of people weren't finding that brand to be a brand for them because it felt like it was catering to the wealthy a little bit too much. It wasn't feeling like an every person thing. But when I worked with them, we understood the emotional drivers and what people throughout the city of Dallas, where this art center does its work, what they really care about. And we transitioned from AT&T Performing Arts Center staging the amazing to AT&T Performing Arts Center, yours to discover.
Mm.
A brand benefit and invitation rooted in what they were looking for, a way to discover things in the performing arts, a way to discover new activities for their family, a way to discover dance classes on the plaza and on all kinds of other things that would make their life more enjoyable.
Well, I want to talk more about that and tapping into emotions. I'd like to also know if people want to get started on the journey of doing this correctly, what should you not do? What are some pitfalls to avoid?
Oh, such a great question. First, you have to understand your customers. You have to talk with them. You have to learn from them. You have to read reviews. You need to understand what it is that is driving their decisions, not only in life, but what it is they feel about the experience they're having with your brand. One of the things that I find so often is that if you can figure out why your loyal and frequent customers keep coming back to you, and you figure that out at scale, you understand that it's a theme throughout all of your customer relationships, that they love you for these reasons, there's a pretty good chance that there are other people out there who would be very happy to know you exist based on those emotional benefits. Because if that's why a lot of people are working with you or frequenting your brand, then there are other people out there who probably want those same benefits. So
Mhm.
what you should not do is ignore your customers and how you make them feel and understanding what they care about in their world. I think another thing you should not do is assume that what you already know is accurate. I call that trickle-down confirmation bias. When leaders of companies think they know all there is to know about the market and their customers and what their customers care about, and they push that information down to the brand team and ask them to execute things based on this internal knowledge, this past research, these assumptions that may have changed in the real marketplace. I mean, our lives and the world has changed so rapidly in so many ways in the last few years that if you're using old data to understand the world and your customers and what they care about, it's probably outdated. It probably is no longer accurate.
So what if you're a solopreneur or a co-founders, or maybe you're established, but you're launching a new product or service and you don't yet have a book of clients to go back and ask, what can you do to pave the road to create limbic sparks and to create emotional attachment with a new service?
Yeah, well, the first thing you should do is really make sure that you're not just creating something to put out into the world and hoping people will come, that you're having conversations with people in the development of that product or that service, and you're having conversations with people in the development of your brand and marketing messaging so that you can understand what matters most. If you present it what you're offering to people and say, what about this is most appealing, what about this is least appealing, what are the things that would drive you to come to this type of opportunity, those are good things that you could learn. You also have to understand that people aren't always going to reveal exactly what they're thinking. And there are, for brands that are bigger, for brands that have robust budgets for research and things of that nature, there are very credible behavioral science-based research techniques out there that allow you to assess people's instinctive feelings and desires and what's missing in current product categories and experience categories and situations. There's a methodology called metaphor elicitation, which is wonderful and can be done on a qualitative or quantitative level. There's implicit association testing, which can assess your subconscious strength of association or lack of association with a particular idea or concept. So there are many ways that you can gain insight and inform your judgment of how to put your product and service out there and how to do your marketing.
Mhm.
And whether you're doing it through robust, costly behavioral science research methods, or you're doing it through 12 conversations with some people that know you and understand what you're up to and can give you honest feedback, it's about getting outside of yourself and your inner bubble and talking with people on the outside to get some real insight that can help you move this forward.
Well, you've already touched on it a little bit, but could you unpack how do you get somebody at hello?
The way you get somebody at hello is quite simply to present something that they find instinctively appealing. And the only way for them to find it, for you to be sure that they will find it instinctively appealing, is to have those conversations, to do that research, to do that insights discovery work, to understand what matters most to them. People aren't walking around looking for brands to fill their life with. They're looking to be happier, to be more successful, to overcome challenges. And if you can understand what those emotional motivations are, then you can address them specifically. I'll give you one more quick client example. I worked with a company called Blue Ridge recently. They are a SaaS offering in the supply chain management space. So they have a piece of software, a cloud-based piece of software that companies use to optimize inventory levels in huge warehouses with thousands and thousands of SKUs. And the people who work in those businesses, the supply chain people who stock those shelves, are on the hook to be as accurate as possible. Because if they have too much inventory, they have money sitting on the shelves that's not going anywhere. And if they don't have enough inventory, then they're not selling stuff. So either way, it affects cash flow, it affects profitability. And they're supposed to be right all the time. So when you have a piece of software like this and a great company like Blue Ridge by your side to help you use that software effectively, you are getting tremendously accurate and predictable insights for how much inventory you should have of each item that you need to have at all times. And what I found out when talking with their customers is that this helps them go from feeling like they're under the gun all the time in their company. They're always like on the hook and they're rarely able to be exactly right, to feeling incredibly confident and elevating their stature in their organization because they have this information and it's keeping the head of sales happy, it's keeping the CFO happy, it's keeping the C-suite happy, that the inventory is always optimized. So the tagline, the brand idea that we created for them, that is now the launch pad for all of their communications, is Be Supply Chain Invincible. It's a Be
Nice.
Supply Chain Invincible is a benefit and an invitation rooted in not only how their customers feel, but how other people who do that job in the world want to feel in their situation.
Well, when you're in the initial stages of doing the research, I love where this is going. What type of people should you be reaching out to? And more importantly, what type of questions should you ask them? Because I think the quality of the question is going to be the quality of the answer. What kind of things should you be finding out to tap into people's emotions?
You're absolutely right. The quality, you said it, I'll repeat what you said. The quality of the questions is so important. And I have a list of questions that I've created and pull from for different interviews and things. But what you want to do is you want to understand to the best of your ability the way this brand makes people feel. So I ask questions like, so when I'm talking with customers of my clients, I ask questions like, how does it feel? How does it make you feel to have this brand as part of your world? If this brand was to go away, what would you miss the most? What are the best things that this brand does for your business? If this brand was a superhero, what would be its singular superpower? Those are the types of questions that I ask to get at emotive feedback and ideas for what brands do for people. And that along with other questions that I ask and questions that I ask of my clients to understand their perspective on similar topics, I bring those two together to create that strategy that's heavily rooted in consumer insight.
Well, once you get their attention, how do you keep it? How do you stay top of mind?
Well, first of all, the brand has to deliver. If you're putting a message out there that is a compelling brand benefit and invitation, and you don't deliver on that benefit, then it was a misleading invitation that will be revealed. So the first thing you have to do is I have another part of traditional brand strategy that I have a challenge with is quite often brands and their consultants and agencies are looking for the white space for positioning. Oh, no brand is talking about this. You know, they're talking about this. Let's move to this quadrant of the 2x2 and position ourselves over here. And the problem with that is if your brand successfully delivers on the promise in that white space, well, that's wonderful. But if you're asking the brand to deliver benefits that it doesn't currently deliver, it's a stretch and it could be an overpromise. And the messaging could be ahead of the delivery. And the fastest way for a brand to fail is with good messaging that is overpromising what it can deliver, because then people show up and they're disappointed or it wasn't real. So it's important to be sure that the messaging is accurate.
Tell me if I'm on point here with what you just said. It sounds like another word for brand or another benefit of a good one. Another word for it, I'll say, is reputation. It's not
Oh,
just about a
absolutely.
logo and a brand, but it's about a reputation that you have to build and
Yeah.
maintain. I mean, can
I
you
like
speak
to
to
think
that?
of the definition of a brand as being the sum of all of the experiences that you have and associations that you have with a particular entity, that entity being the brand. And if you are disappointing customers either because you just have a poor experience, or even worse, you're promising something that you can't deliver on, that's a problem. So one of the key pillars of Limbic Sparks brand strategy and creating Limbic Sparks is that it has to be true. It has to be real. So that's why my go-to is to understand what people who are using that brand already are actually feeling, and then to promote that and bring that to the top of the messaging so that others know that they can receive that, feel that in that scenario. It's I'm never going to present something to a client that is a benefit and invitation that they aren't currently delivering on, because if I do that, then they're setting themselves up for failure.
Well, it sounds like if your offering is new, it's not about, oh, look how amazing I am yet, because you don't have the results to back it up. It would be more of attaching to the emotions and building a reputation with that, and not bragging right out of the gates how great you are. Would that be true?
Honestly, what you said is accurate, but there would never be a Limbic Sparks brand strategy or idea or tagline where the company is bragging about itself. It's always about the customer. It's always for the customer. It's always about the way the customer will feel when they interact with this brand. Um, you know, Taglines that I've created include be supply chain invincible, yours to discover, invigorate potential, radically simplified. These are ideas that are not bragging from a brand standpoint. They are about the benefit you will get if you are part of this brand's world.
We've covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. For people watching and listening, if this makes sense, I love what you're saying, and you were saying
Thank you.
to build a brand experience. If nothing else, whether it's getting started, something you've already said to reiterate, or something new you haven't touched on, if you were to say, you know what, do at least this one thing, at least this, do this above all, what would you tell them to do?
Talk to your customers and understand the emotional drivers of their decisions.
This has been excellent. Thank you very much, Kevin. If people want to find you, where's the best place or places to go?
One place to go is LinkedIn, Kevin Perlmutter. I'm all over LinkedIn. Another place is my website, limbicbrandevolution.com.
Thank you again for the time. This has been excellent.
Thank you so much.
And Steam.
Excellent.